Let's go to Victoria now and the Victorian election just a few days away now. I want to catch up with John Ferguson, who's Associate Editor with The Australian and has been all over Victorian politics for many decades. Great to talk to you, John, and get your insights. Do you think there's any possibility that this could be the surprise, like Jeff Kennett-like dumping of a strong leader? Could it be that much of a backlash against Daniel Andrews, or are people getting away with those sorts of possibilities?
I think no one serious is thinking that that's what's going to happen. But where the argument is around is how big the backlash will be against Labor. There will be a backlash. It's just a question of whether it's a minimum of 7 or 8 seats or it's 10 or more. I tend to fall into I think it's going to be more rather than less. So I think the best case scenario probably is a narrow majority for Andrews. And
in many ways, that could be the best case from everybody's perspective except the Greens, right? Because a bit of a horror scenario could be him relying on the Greens for the balance of power.
Yeah, look, if Andrews were to fall into minority, if he's in a narrow minority, then he'll have some independents that he could deal with. There's 2 or 3 country independents that he'll probably, depending on results, of course, he'll probably be able to deal with. But it would be an absolute nightmare for Labor if they were to drop deep into minority. And I've got to say, Chris, people aren't ruling this out. I think there's probably between, let's say, 10 and 15 seats that could fall, So, it could be a really big night. There are contradictions, though. A couple of really good Labor contacts of mine are saying, well, we think it's more likely to be 7 or 8 and that's where it will land. So, it's all open for debate until Saturday night.
It is, and it's so difficult to poll accurately these days and interpret, so everyone's feeling around a little bit. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I want to get some of your insights from the debate last night, the People's Forum. I'll show you a clip from either leader. First up, let's have a look at Daniel Andrews, who was pretty restrained, but I thought was pretty masterful in the way he used nurses and AMBOs as what we call human shields in this exchange. Have a look.
Why, Matthew, do you continue to run a commentary on our health system that simply ignores the fact that our nurses, our AMBOs, our midwives, the whole team have worked so hard during a 1 in 100 year event? It's almost like you discount the fact that we've had a pandemic.
Yeah, now health's a big issue for him, but that's a clever, if not cynical, way of defending himself.
Oh, it sure is. Look, I thought that was, and that I'm glad you picked up on that, because when people down here talk about Andrews's political skills, it's that sort of stuff that really stands out. He does weaponise the public service. He does weaponise teachers, nurses, ambulance, less so police these days. It tends to be a more conservative constituency, but. Look, I thought that was really clever, but for those of us who've watched him a lot, transparent as well. But I think you've picked up on what, to me, was a really defining part of the debate.
And the other one is, summing up his night, is Matthew Guy, and probably a clever political line given the polarisation of political debate, but he's sounding a bit like Joe Biden here. Have a look.
Our state deserves a premier who can unite us, not divide us. At this juncture in our state's history, it's never been more important for Victorians to be confident and united.
Yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts, John, on that line of uniting Victoria, and also whether we might have seen Matthew Guy for the first time last night actually look like he could be premier material. He actually looked a little bit more polished.
Yeah, I reckon that's the second best grab of the night. I think that line, what the Libs have been trying to, and the Coalition have been trying to do in Victoria for the interstate listeners, is really hammer hard at Daniel Andrews. They believe that he is their ticket to a reasonable result on Saturday night. On the second level, I think Matthew Guy's had a pretty good campaign, really. I think that my personal view is that I don't think he's great on TV, and I think that's probably his biggest downside. He's just not someone who naturally looks good on TV, but you're probably a better judge than that. But I think he's had a pretty good campaign.
I know the feeling, mate.
Well, there's a reason why I've been in newspapers for 38 years too. But I mean, I'm not going to slag the guy off for that, I suppose. But it does matter, you know. Like if you can't project credibly on TV, it's very hard to win the confidence of a large number of people.
Thanks for joining us, John. So good to get your insights. That was self-deprecation on my part. I certainly wasn't having a go on at you. Love having you on the program. John Ferguson there. You can read his stuff in The Australian, really all over the Victorian political situation.